There are many fan-speculated theories out there concerning Red Dead Redemption 2, many of which I've covered myself. Was Jimmy Brooks working with the Strange Man? Were Cleet and Joe working for the Pinkertons? And who is Jack's actual father? But one that I've not seen covered, which we'll be delving into today, is the question: did Arthur Morgan perish on the island of GUARMA? And was every event and interaction following this all in Arthur's mind? Welcome to the video. You're listening to Phil of Philby Gaming. If you enjoy the following, you all know what to do, and if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed already, after watching, please consider doing so. With that being said, let's get into what we came here to see. Before we get to the island, let's take a brief look at the events leading to this and the actions of Arthur Morgan. Arthur Morgan was the top gunman in the Van der Linde gang, who would often follow orders from Dutch without question, leaving his morals at the door. We witnessed this during train heists, prison escapes, bank robberies and debt collections. Arthur would kill indiscriminately, not pausing for a second thought upon the lives he was about to both take or alter. But as the events of Red Dead Redemption 2 transpire, especially following his diagnosis, Arthur turned a corner and began helping those not only in need, but those he had wronged in the past, somewhat making amends for his mistakes. Many would speculate that this is nothing more than Arthur realising the severity of his past actions and is now wishing to become a better person before his final passing. But what if the majority of this didn't actually happen? What if Arthur imagined it all and was trapped in some form of purgatory? In Chapter 4 of the title, the gang attempt to pull off what's considered to be the biggest heist so far within the faction's history: the raid on the Bank of Lemoyne in Saint-Denis. Although off to a good start, things soon turn sour as the Pinkerton Detective Agency descend on the robbery, throwing a spanner in the works concerning the gang's intentions. Although Abigail managed to somehow escape, Hosea Matthews is slain by primary antagonist Andrew Milton, and John Marston is captured alive. The remaining members manage to escape their entrapment via the rooftops, but Lenny is tragically killed during the escape. Scaling across the skylines of Saint-Denis, the group find temporary refuge in an old house and await while Dutch comes up with a plan. After taking influence from the picture frames upon the walls of the home, the team of Arthur, Micah, Bill, Charles and Dutch himself quietly head to the docks where they board a ship and set sail for northern Cuba. Sometime into the journey, the following happens.
Wake up! Everybody! Wake up! Wake up! Come on, Arthur! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! I don't know, but we are getting off of this boat! You come on! Would you get a move on, you sleepy bastard? Please, you can go ahead. I'll be right behind you. Jesus. I'm okay. You? Yeah. This ain't moving. Yeah, you go on ahead. I'll try and find another way. Oh, God damn it!
So Arthur miraculously survives the ordeal, washing up on the island of GUARMA. From here, he reunites with his former gang before being captured by a local militia, later battling their way off the island. It's following the return to the mainland that Arthur is diagnosed with tuberculosis, changing the course of his life. From here, Arthur begins to change his outlook on the world, helping those in need. But did any of this actually happen? Let's look into a theory that Arthur never actually survived the capsizing of the ship. For Arthur to not only have survived the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean, but to wash up on a beach not too far from his friends seems way too coincidental. We also have the events of the island of Guarma itself. I understand that video game logic is what it is, but for a small handful of men to fend off seemingly copious amounts of enemies, then later fending off more and more, but to take down a massive naval war vessel with a single cannon, all seems too exaggerated, as if it truly never occurred. Arthur could be in some form of purgatory. To be in purgatory, one must absolve their sins before ascending to heaven, and in Arthur's case, there's plenty of sins to absolve. The robberies, the beatings, and the debt collections where he would prey on those vulnerable were all occurrences that Arthur took upon himself to action. This could explain the events following the gang's return to the mainland, where Arthur, after receiving the TB diagnosis, would begin to work on becoming a better man. But before we get into absolving sins, let's look at the life-altering diagnosis itself. Tuberculosis can live in the system for many years. Real-life gunslinger Doc Holliday is an example of this, whom after receiving a diagnosis of the same bacterial infection at the age of 20, continued to live until he was 36. Arthur lasted mere months if anything. Now we could chalk this up to video game logic of course, but it's food for thought. One could argue that the events of GUARMA and the stress on both the body and mind sped up the process, but would it have been enough to accelerate it that much? So let's look at the characters that Arthur met prior to the ship capsizing and his interactions with them. First and foremost, we of course have the debt collection of Thomas Downs, a man already dying from, at that time, an unknown illness. Arthur beat him within an inch of his life, all for, in his own words, a few bucks. He would later feel remorse for his actions and begin aiding Thomas's wife and child following the fall of the Downs family by saving them both from harm and giving them what funds he had to help them succeed in life. He also assisted the church, helping out both Brother Dawkins and Sister Calderon before GUARMA, then further interacted with them later in time following his diagnosis, continuing to help them. There are others from his past who popped up following the shipwreck, such as Eagle Flies and Rainsfall, whom Arthur helped by trying to keep them out of harm's way, whilst also attempting to reunite a bond between a father and a son. Remember, Arthur had lost his son under violent circumstances. This could be his way of connecting, or he simply saw a broken relationship of someone being led astray by anger, and it reminded him of himself. Arthur even reunited Beau Gray and Penelope Braithwaite much later in the title, where he would help them escape to live a life of love. Was this his subconscious envisioning a life he wanted with Mary or Eliza, a love he lost out on due to his own choices and actions? As for the likes of Leviticus Cornwall, Alberto Fusar, Andrew Milton and Como Driscoll, all figures were deserving of a death that Arthur either witnessed or was involved in. This brought him closure. We also had the continuation of the debt collections, where Arthur would help out those in need instead of just beating or intimidating them as he would previously, primarily the Londonderry family, whom seemed to have affected Arthur the most. Arthur also met with Charlotte Balfour, a grieving widow who would have no doubt perished without the assistance of Arthur, as he taught her how to live off the land. Was Charlotte sent to Arthur to test him? All of these actions following the shipwreck could have all been in Arthur's mind, as he sought to right the wrongs of his past. Referring back to purgatory, it's theorised that Arthur was stuck in some form of limbo, and he would need to make things right before ascending to the heavens above. Arthur could have died in the frozen waters of the Atlantic, and simply imagined every single interaction after the fact, giving him closure. He watched the gang as they disbanded, and those such as Tilly, Pearson and Mary Beth continued on to live their lives, those of the gang deserving, finding peace that they deserved in life. If we look at the TB diagnosis, it was an illness that was much more common back then than today, so of course Arthur would have been aware of it. Arthur's coughing prior to the shipwreck was very mild, but after being washed up on the island, it quickly became aggressive. Did Arthur take the coughing of Thomas Downs and convince himself that he contracted the illness? What if there was no diagnosis at all, and everything was in Arthur's mind? There are of course rebuttals to this theory, such as where John states that Arthur saved him, or the fact that Arthur has a gravesite where he passed upon the mountains, but this could be explained otherwise. John could be referring to the very start of the title, where he was saved by Arthur from the wolf attack following the escape from Blackwater. And the gravesite could have been a shrine of sorts placed in the memory of Arthur, as there's no body mount to evidence inhabitants. The gang could have continued on without him, those who survived, and everything we witnessed following the shipwreck was Arthur righting his wrongs. Although far-fetched and stretching the imagination somewhat, this was still a fun video to make. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. There is of course a lot opposing this theory, and it's absolutely not bulletproof, we realise, so just take it as what it is, a bit of entertainment for you all. If you enjoyed what you saw today, you all know what to do, and if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Thank you all for watching. You've been listening to Phil of Philby Gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.